The moment Eliza Morgan stepped out of her chauffeur-driven Bentley, she knew her life was about to change forever. Not because of the small-town diner she was entering, a place so unlike the five-star restaurants she frequented, but because of who waited inside. A man who believed she was just Liz, a struggling freelance writer. A man whose genuine smile had somehow pierced through the fortress she'd built around her heart. A man who had no idea she controlled a $4.2 billion tech empire. If you're wondering whether love built on lies can survive the inevitable truth, stay with me until the end. You won't believe the twist that changes everything. Like this video if you've ever kept a secret to protect someone you care about, and subscribe for more stories that will make you question what you'd do for love. The rain pattered against the windows of Sunrise Diner, creating a soothing rhythm that matched the beating of Eliza's heart. She smoothed down her deliberately modest outfit, jeans and a simple sweater that cost more than most people's monthly rent, though no one would guess it. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail, her face bare of the expensive makeup she typically wore for board meetings. This was her fourth meeting with Jack Bennett. The first had been purely accidental. She ducked into this same diner 3 weeks ago when her car had a flat tire during her secret, normal person, getaways. These monthly escapes from her high-pressure life were her only taste of freedom, her only chance to remember who she was beneath the weight of Morgan Technologies. Jack had been her server that day, a tall man with kind eyes and laugh lines that suggested he found joy despite hardship. When he'd asked what she did for a living, the lie had slipped out effortlessly. "I'm a freelance writer," she'd said, creating a fictional life where she struggled for assignments and lived in a modest apartment across town. She hadn't meant to return. But something about Jack's genuine warmth had drawn her back the following week. And then again. And now here she was, heart fluttering like she was 20 instead of 35, about to have coffee with a man who earned in a year what her company made in 5 minutes. Liz. Jack's face lit up when he spotted her, and Eliza felt that now familiar twist in her stomach. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but his face carried a quiet strength that she found more attractive than any of the polished executives who constantly sought her attention. "Sorry I'm late," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. Traffic was terrible. In reality, her board meeting had run long, a tense discussion about their upcoming product launch that could potentially double the company's already staggering value. She'd barely had time to change clothes in her private bathroom before sneaking out through the service entrance to avoid her assistant's questions. "No worries. I'm just glad you made it." Jack pushed a mug of coffee toward her. "I already ordered your usual. 2 sugars, splash of cream." The fact that he remembered such a small detail made her chest tighten. When was the last time someone had paid attention to her preferences without an ulterior motive? "Thanks." She wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "How was your day?" "Chaotic, as usual." Jack ran a hand through his sandy brown hair. "Emma had a meltdown this morning because she couldn't find her favorite hair clip, the butterfly one her grandmother gave her before she passed. We turned the house upside down looking for it, only to find it in her backpack all along." Eliza smiled, picturing the 6-year-old girl Jack had told her about. The daily drama of first grade. "Tell me about it." Jack's expression softened. "But she's doing better. The nightmares about her mom aren't as frequent now. Jack's wife had died of cancer 2 years ago, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. He never spoke of it with self-pity, just a quiet determination to give Emma the best life possible despite their loss." "And the diner?" Eliza asked, knowing it was Jack's second job. By day, he taught high school English, by night, he waited tables to make ends meet. Still standing, though barely. A shadow crossed his face. "The owner's talking about selling. Developers want the land for some luxury condo project." Eliza stiffened. Morgan Developments, her company's real estate subsidiary, had been buying properties throughout this area. She'd signed off on the acquisitions without much thought, trusting her executive's judgment about which neighborhoods were ripe for revitalization, a euphemism for gentrification she suddenly found distasteful. "That's terrible," she said, guilt churning in her stomach. "What will you do?" Jack shrugged. "Find another part-time job, I guess. Not many places will work around my teaching schedule, though." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Enough about my problems. How's your writing going? Any luck with that magazine submission?" The fictional article she'd invented during their last conversation. "Still waiting to hear back," she lied smoothly. "But I've got a few other pitches out there." "It'll happen," Jack said with such conviction that Eliza felt even worse. "You're too talented not to get recognized." If only he knew. Her face had been on the cover of Forbes last year. "Most powerful women in tech," the headline had proclaimed. The irony wasn't lost on her. Their conversation flowed easily after that, touching on books they'd both read, a documentary Jack had shown his students, and Eliza's carefully fabricated struggles with her ancient laptop. She found herself laughing more than she had in months, momentarily forgetting the weight of her deception. "I should get going," Jack said eventually, checking his watch. "Emma's babysitter can only stay until 9. "Of course." Eliza nodded, ignoring her disappointment. "Same time next week?" Jack hesitated, and Eliza felt her heart sink. Had he tired of her already? "Actually," he said, "Emma's school is having this fall carnival on Saturday. It's nothing fancy, just games and food in the school gymnasium. But Emma's been asking to meet you, and I thought, maybe you'd like to come? As my guest?" The invitation caught her off guard. Meeting his daughter would cross a line, taking this from casual coffee meetings to something more significant. Something that would make her lie even more unforgivable. "I'd love to," she heard herself say. Jack's smile was worth the complication. "Great. I'll text you the details." As they parted ways outside the diner, Jack leaned down and kissed her cheek. It was brief, almost chaste, but Eliza felt it like an electric current through her body. "See you Saturday, Liz," he said softly before walking toward his modest sedan. Eliza waited until his car disappeared around the corner before sliding into her waiting Bentley. "Back to the penthouse, Ms. Morgan?" her driver asked. "Yes, Richard." She leaned back against the leather seat, closing her eyes. "And Richard?" "Not a word about this to anyone." "As always, ma'am." The contrast between the warm diner and her sleek, cold penthouse had never felt so stark. Eliza kicked off her shoes and padded across the marble floor to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city, her city, in many ways. Lights twinkled below like stars, each one representing lives so different from her own. Her phone buzzed with a text from her CFO about tomorrow's investor call. Another from her assistant reminding her about her 7 a.m. meeting. 3 emails marked urgent from her executive team. And one message from Jack: "Thanks for making my day brighter. Looking forward to Saturday." Eliza pressed her forehead against the cool glass. What had started as an innocent escape had become a tangled web she didn't know how to unravel. The truth would hurt Jack, not just because she'd lied, but because their worlds were so incompatible. Men like Jack didn't trust women like her. She'd learned that lesson painfully in her 20s when her first serious boyfriend had sold stories about her to the tabloids after discovering her family's wealth. Since taking over Morgan Technologies after her father's death 7 years ago, she'd built walls around herself, trusting only a small circle of people who'd proven their loyalty. Jack's genuine kindness had somehow slipped through those defenses, making her yearn for something she'd convinced herself she didn't need. But Saturday would change everything. Meeting Emma would make this real. And real meant eventually telling the truth. The elementary school gymnasium buzzed with activity. Children darted between game booths while parents chatted in clusters, the air filled with laughter and the scent of popcorn. Eliza stood just inside the entrance, feeling oddly nervous. She'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but the prospect of meeting a 6-year-old girl had her palms damp. Liz. Jack waved from across the room, a small figure clutching his hand. Even from a distance, Eliza could see Emma was her father's daughter, the same warm eyes and gentle smile, though her hair was darker, likely her mother's shade. Eliza wove through the crowd, conscious of her deliberately casual outfit, designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that she hoped didn't scream billionaire. She'd left her usual accessories at home and had her driver drop her several blocks away. "You made it," Jack said, his smile making her heart flip. "Emma, this is my friend Liz I told you about." Emma regarded Eliza with solemn eyes. "Do you like butterflies?" she asked without preamble. Eliza crouched down to the girl's level. "I do. Especially the blue morpho butterfly. Its wings are so bright they almost glow." Emma's eyes widened. "I have a book about those." "Daddy, she knows about the blue ones." Jack laughed. "Common ground already. I think we're off to a good start." The afternoon passed in a blur of carnival games, cotton candy, and Emma's increasingly animated chatter. The child's initial reserve melted quickly, and soon she was pulling Eliza from booth to booth, proudly showing off her school and introducing her to friends and teachers. "Ms. Peterson. This is Daddy's friend Liz. She knows about blue butterflies." The kindergarten teacher smiled warmly. "Wonderful to meet you, Liz. Jack's mentioned you." Eliza felt a blush creep up her neck. "All good things, I hope." "Very good things," Ms. Peterson confirmed with a knowing look that made Eliza's blush deepen. As Emma ran off to try the ring toss with her friends, Jack and Eliza found themselves momentarily alone by the refreshment table. "She's amazing," Eliza said honestly. "You're doing a wonderful job with her." Jack's expression softened. "I'm trying. Some days are harder than others. She still asks for her mom sometimes, especially at bedtime." He looked down at his coffee cup. "It's been 2 years, but grief doesn't follow a timetable, you know?" "No, it doesn't," Eliza agreed, thinking of her own father. Despite their complicated relationship, his death had left a void that success and money couldn't fill. "But you're giving her stability and love. That matters more than anything." Jack studied her face. "You speak like someone who knows loss." "My father," she admitted, offering a rare piece of truth. 7 years ago." "I'm sorry." His hand covered hers briefly, warm and comforting. "Daddy. Liz. Look what I won." Emma came running back, clutching a small stuffed butterfly. "Would you look at that?" Jack said, his smile returning. "It's like it was meant to be." Emma thrust the toy toward Eliza. "It's for you. Because you like butterflies too." Eliza felt something crack inside her chest, a hairline fracture in the walls she'd built. "Thank you, Emma. That's the nicest gift I've gotten in a very long time." The child beamed, then tugged on her father's hand. "Can Liz come for dinner? Please. I want to show her my butterfly books." Jack looked at Eliza questioningly. "No pressure. I'm sure you have plans." "I'd love to," Eliza interrupted, knowing she was crossing yet another line but unable to stop herself. Jack's modest home was exactly as she'd imagined, warm, slightly cluttered, with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. Children's artwork adorned the refrigerator, and bookshelves lined the living room walls. It was everything her sterile penthouse wasn't. Emma immediately dragged Eliza to see her room, proudly showing off her butterfly collection and books. Jack called them for dinner, a simple but delicious pasta dish he'd prepared that morning. "This is amazing," Eliza said, genuinely impressed. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "My mom taught me the basics. The rest I learned out of necessity after Sarah died." He glanced at Emma, but she was happily twirling pasta, oblivious to the adult conversation. Frozen dinners get old fast. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Eliza her bedtime routine, which included a story and her special nightlight that projected stars onto the ceiling. "Will you read to me?" Emma asked, holding out a well-worn book about, predictably, butterflies. Eliza looked to Jack for permission. When he nodded, she settled beside Emma on the small bed and began to read. The child snuggled against her side, a warm weight that felt strangely right. By the time she finished the story, Emma's eyes were drooping. "Good night, butterfly girl," Eliza whispered, carefully extracting herself. "Night, Liz," Emma murmured sleepily. "Come back tomorrow?" Eliza's throat tightened. "We'll see," she managed, knowing she needed to end this charade before it went any further. Jack was waiting in the living room with 2 glasses of wine. "Thank you for today," he said, handing her one. "Emma hasn't connected with anyone like that since her mom died." Guilt twisted in Eliza's stomach. "She's a special girl." "Like her dad?" Jack's eyes held a teasing light. "Definitely like her dad." Eliza took a sip of wine to steady herself. Jack moved closer, his hand gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I know this is fast," he said softly. "And I have a lot of baggage. A grieving child, 2 jobs that barely pay the bills, a house that's falling apart faster than I can fix it." He smiled ruefully. "Not exactly a catch, Jack. But there's something about you, Liz. Something real in a world that often feels anything but." His fingers traced her cheek. "Tell me I'm not imagining this." Eliza knew she should stop this, should tell him the truth before it went any further. Instead, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with a hunger that surprised them both. Jack's arms encircled her waist, drawing her closer until she could feel his heartbeat against her chest. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Jack rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," he whispered. It was tempting, so tempting to lose herself in this fantasy for one night. But the thought of Emma finding her there in the morning, of deepening this deception, stopped her. "I can't," she said regretfully. "Not tonight. But soon." Jack nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I'll hold you to that." As her driver took her back to her penthouse, Eliza made a decision. She would tell Jack the truth, not everything at once, perhaps, but enough. She would start with her real name, her real job. If there was anything real between them, they would find a way forward. Monday morning found Eliza in her corner office, staring unseeing at quarterly reports while her mind replayed Saturday's kiss. She'd texted Jack on Sunday, suggesting they meet at the diner that evening. She would tell him then. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Ms. Morgan? The team is ready for the acquisition briefing." Her assistant, Natalie, stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. "Of course." Eliza straightened, slipping back into CEO mode. "Which property are we discussing today?" "The Sunrise development. The final businesses on the block have been approached with offers." Eliza froze. "Sunrise? As in Sunrise Diner?" Natalie consulted her tablet. "Yes, that's one of them. Apparently, the owner is reluctant, but our team believes he'll come around when he sees the numbers." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "Cancel the meeting," Eliza said abruptly. "I'm sorry." "Cancel it. And get me everything we have on the Sunrise development project. Immediately." 20 minutes later, Eliza was poring over documents, her stomach sinking with each page. The revitalization project would demolish an entire block of small businesses, including the diner where she'd met Jack. The neighborhood, Jack's neighborhood, would be transformed into luxury condos and high-end retail, inevitably driving up surrounding property values and